Hello, Algebra 1. In these set of notes, we're going to look at how to solve a multi-step equation. Now, be sure to pause the video if you need to, just to catch up with the writing. So let's start with the steps to solve, and you'll need to write these out. So step number 1, you want to simplify each side. So when we're talking about sides, we're talking about sides of the equal sign. So we're going to simplify each side. Step number 2, if you see any parentheses and numbers in front, you need to distribute that number. So multiply, use the distributive property. You also want to combine like terms. And so we're talking about each side of the equal sign. So you look for things to distribute and then like terms to combine. Now finally, step number 3, you're going to use inverse operations. So add, subtract. If something's multiplied, you're going to divide. So use inverse operations to set or get your variable terms on one side of the equal sign and your constants, your numbers, on the other. Again, take a moment and pause the video to get down all of these steps in that space. All right, I have the steps on the slide over to the side. You can also look in your notes. So the first thing we're going to look at is each side of our equal sign separately. So on the left side, I notice that I have parentheses and a number in front, so I'm going to distribute the 3. So I'm multiplying, and I get 21x minus 6 equals 36. Now there's nothing on the separate sides of the equal sign that I can combine. So now I'm moving on to step 3. So I'm going to use inverse operations to move my numbers to one side and keep my variables on the other. So I see the minus 6 on the left side. I'm going to add the 6 to both sides to isolate that x term. So we rewrite as 21x equals 36 plus 6, which is 42. Now I'm focusing on the left side of the equal sign with my x. It is being multiplied by 21, so the inverse operation of multiplication is division, so we'll divide each side by 21. 42 divided by 21 is 2. You can always plug the answer in to your original equation for x and do the math and make sure that the left side of your equation equals the right, just to check. All right, now let's look at the next one. And so we're going to be looking at each side of the equal sign separately to see if there is some simplifying. So do you see those parentheses? And there's just a negative sign out front. But when you see that, either a negative or just a positive, a plus out front, we can put a 1 in there. And so now let's distribute that 1. So we'll bring down our 8x, and then negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4, and that equals 4. Continue looking on the left side of your equal sign, because now we have some terms that we can combine. So 8x minus 1x is 7x. Bring down the 4 equals 4. Now we can move our numbers over to the right side of the equal sign. So let's subtract the 4. That's using an inverse operation. So 7x equals 0. And then finally, 7 is multiplying the x, so we need to divide each side by 7. 0 divided by anything is 0. Let's continue with the next problem. So we have x divided by 4 minus 2 equals negative 5. So there's nothing that we can simplify on either side of the equal sign, nothing to combine, no numbers to distribute across a parentheses. So let's jump down to number 3. We're going to start undoing the math that's happening to x. So there is a 2 that's being subtracted. We need to add that to both sides. So we'll bring down our x divided by 4 equals, and then negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. Now we need to undo the division by 4 on the left side of the equal sign. So we will undo that by multiplying each side by 4. So I'll use my multiplication dot, and my 4's will cancel out, equals negative 3 times 4, which is negative 12. Okay, on our next one, we go through the process. We have x minus 2 all divided by 4 equals 5. So there's nothing that we can simplify, combine, or distribute on either side of the equal sign. So we need to just start using inverse operations. Because everything on the left side is being divided by 4, that's what we need to undo first. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4. So the 4's cancel on the left side, and we get x minus 2 equals 20. Now, we did not start with the multiplication of 4 on our problem on the left because only the x was being divided by 4. But in this case, the x and the minus 2 were, so we have to deal with that first. Now we're going to undo that minus 2 by adding 2 to both sides. And so x will equal 22. Here's an application problem with triangles. It says write an equation and solve. So the sum of the angles in a triangle are 180 degrees. Find the value of x in the given triangle. So the first thing I want you to notice in the triangle are the bottom 2 vertices. So we have a mark here, a single mark, and then an expression of 5 times x, some number. We don't know. Notice that we have that same mark in the angle over to the right. So that means that indicates that those angles are equal. So this one we could also express as 5x degrees. So notice it says sum of the angles. We don't know what those measurements are, we just know the variables. So let's just write an equation using those variable expressions. So we will have 5x plus the middle angle is 3x minus 2 plus another 5x equals 180. So stop and take a look and write down what we did here. Those are all the expressions for the 3 angles in this triangle. So now we're going to simplify each side, or at least the left side of the equal sign. Let's combine some like terms. So the first 2 terms together, 5x plus 3x is 8x, and then I just recopy down my minus 2 plus 5x equals 180. I'm going to continue just combining my like terms on the left side, so I have an 8x plus 5x, which will give me a 13x. I bring down my minus 2, and that will equal 180. Now my left side of the equal sign is simplified, so I can start moving my numbers over to the right side. So 13x equals 182. The 13 is multiplying by x, so we'll divide by 13. Now we have done it, okay, the value of x is 14, but that doesn't really help us know the angles of the triangle, so let's go ahead and find the angles. So I'm labeling them angle A, B, and C. So angle A is 5 times x, and x is 14. So that will give me 70 degrees. Angle B is 3. Oh, I'm sorry, angle C, I know it. It's the same. Angle B is 3 times 14 minus 2, and that will give us 40 degrees. And you can do a quick check. 70 degrees plus 70 degrees plus 40 degrees does equal 180. And that concludes the notes for solving a multi-step equation.